Okay, so today I will talk about administration, environment and harmony. Essentially around these 4 topics, and again I think this can be even more interactive than yesterday. So infrastructure, people said no, you'd like to know what all has happened. Well, these are the new structures that got built. In this, 2 things are in work, in progress, and they are expected as given, and there were addition to existing structures that happened, and that I think was, wherever it happened, it was a big savior for those departments. That was an ongoing process. And new electric power supply network that has been commissioned. I wanted to add also computer network, but that is already mentioned yesterday. I want to come to administration. Now we have an IIT-like administrative structure, executive deans along with the registrar. They become the 6 areas, domains for 6 functional areas, where each office having executive powers. There is also a clear delineation of powers for the entire institute that was also prepared and worked out. When the new institute, new structure comes in, it's quite amazing how much work needs to be done in getting that operational, in first of all creating and then understanding and then operationalizing the whole thing. Now about admin procedures. We try to simplify some processes, no dues for students, scholarship, PG admissions, also on the faculty side. Many things got streamlined, where if there is a paper that is moving, then if there is a problem, it is all identified in one stroke. At least that is the attempt. Objection should come all together, not one and again later at any given desk. So this would help actually streamline things, make things move faster. Of course, there is automation support, which is very crucial today. Today's times when people have very little patience and they want all the information. Rightly so today. Now today we can say, even 5 years back, 10 years back, many of the things were tough to do. And 5 years back, one couldn't have realized how quickly this expectation will grow. So in particular, all the academics and finances, all the major elements are all computerized and working. Now we may have put in these processes, but training is very essential, training of staff. So that is also going on, and understand that today of the ministerial staff, non-technical staff, we have only 6 people from BHU, that's all. And we had something of the order of 200 odd people, 250, and they are all gone, right? They have gone back to BHU. Few have retired, but BHU has been asking, and last month they said, no, we want everybody back immediately. And so we said, no, we have taken people, but they are new. They have been part of the system now, but they are still young and new, So therefore we need more time, but they say, no, we are suffering, and they have a real problem. It is not that they want it for no reason. They have departments there without a single staff. They are very deep need for staff. So they took this step when we had only 20 people left, 25. We had 25 people, and then 19 are gone, just 2 weeks back. So training of staff becomes very important, and training has both components: understanding the procedure, understanding stakeholders, understanding what are sensitive issues, where speed is absolutely necessary, right? And second, if you get lot of workload, how to prioritize. All this is part that people have to understand. So that process has been started, has been going on for last at least 2 years, even before more than 2 years, more like 3 years, 3.5 years. There is a citizens charter in place for administrative processes, so most importantly time bound processes, and they also, it specifies who is responsible and full information about what are the support papers to be submitted. It is nothing more irritating to a person. You submit everything, 1 week later you get returned in original, you did not submit these 2 papers, right? Then you resubmit. So to provide all the information, this has been done. And Citizens Charter actually lists time that will be required for processing of different processes in different offices. Fairly elaborate, detailed document which was worked out over a period of few months, where each office indicated what is the timeline within which they can do things. Right? There is also one relaxation clause there. Sometimes at well defined period, we know also when is the period. Lot of work comes in a particular office. For example, March, finance is overloaded with things, or during exam time, faculty is overloaded, or lot of work to be done about correction, and academic offices overloaded. So at those times we will use the reasonable principle. That reasonable means that if there is such an eventuality that occurs, then yes, those time bound things will become more indicative what they will try to meet. But I think if the stakeholders, everybody understands, then these things can work well. Let me come now to governance. Okay. So I think this is an issue. In an academic institution, governance is through committees. Right? It is also called collegial governance. As a community, you govern yourself. And how is that done? That is done by means of committees. Committees take decisions which are then implemented. So, what this provides, since the committees come from the community itself, it provides space for discussions before as well as during the discussion. Okay? After the discussion, anyway discussions take place, but it is before that is more important, and during the process of decision making. So this allows for democratization, right? In fact, that is democratization, because now the community itself is deciding by means of its members, and those members are reachable, they are nearby, they understand, at least you can talk to them, convey your views. And if you yourself are a member, you have to do the reverse. You have to talk to other people of the community, get their views, and then do it. So, as an example, and you all know this, take the example of department, closer home, right? Because most of the time you are dealing with the department. So there are committees for faculty recruitment, academic affairs, budget, R&D, purchases, library, website, etc. Right? So one can say there is tremendous democratic space. Okay? Now, democratic process requires open discussions, which means expressing your views, and second, even more important, listening to others. Sometimes in today's situation, the first part has increased and second part has reduced. We express our views, don't listen to what others are saying. Then arriving at a consensus. So if it's a committee meeting or if it's a town hall meeting as it is called, open meeting, then you arrive at a consensus. So, in a meeting you listen, you say something, you listen to others, there is a discussion over pros and cons about what should be done, what way the decision should go, and arriving at a consensus. This is different from majority view. Okay? So we don't have a good understanding of what is democracy. That is the problem. That's the problem a common man is having, that's the problem we are also having, intellectuals are also having. We think democracy means you go with your views, ready to give lecture, not listen to anybody, and after that do voting. And the majority decides what is voting, how decision is taken, and that's it. Actually, democratic process is not that. Right? This is called the worst part of the democracy. Or this is to be done when everything else has failed. Okay. So, what is this real democracy? The real democracy is through a discussion, you believe that the other can change his or her viewpoint. Right? Normally, if you talk to people, they say, oh, no need to talk to anybody, they will not listen. Right? Normally, listen means they will not hear, no, they will hear but they will not even recall what you have said. After that decision, no change in their views. Right? That is not how I believe democracy, what democracy is. I believe till the last that the other person who has an opposite view to mine, I can convince him. Right? And I am sure he may have equally the same view. So that is how things evolve. But what is this consensus? It means you have a view X, the other person has a view Y, right? Lot of discussion has taken place, but still ultimately there is no change in the position. That can also happen. Then democracy means figuring out what is it that is acceptable to both, acceptable to all. Okay? And if you arrive at it and if you think that satisfies the need of the hour, which also means it is not that we discuss, we identify a common minimum program which doesn't meet any, which doesn't give any solution, which does not answer the questions that are coming up. So it is more than that. So it is figuring out what is it that will be acceptable, and that would require flexibility. So flexibility in method, firmness in principles, that is very important, because we shouldn't get hung up on a particular method. You should be willing to try out another method. Okay. But principles, yes, no compromise. So flexible in arriving at a decision in which we are able to chalk out, work out a common agreement which will address the concerns that are there, issues that are there, and it is also acceptable to people. That is democracy. So you arrive at that and move forward. And I think that part we still have to learn as a society, as I think community, institutions, everywhere this is we have to learn. But what happens if this fails and the issue is very urgent? You say, alright, we won't take a decision today, we will meet after 1 week, let everybody think. Nothing wrong with that. And when people think, they come back, still you can't find a solution, and now it has become urgent. Now what to do? So then you have to take majority view or whatever method is adopted by the group, and then whatever decision is arrived at, we accept that decision. Okay. And accepting the decision means many things, right? Even if I disagree, when I accept the decision, I will follow it. I will not try to undermine it. Most importantly, I will not go around saying, look what kind of decision is taken, see this has happened. Then I take the next step, that guy, he did this, he has this vested interest, the other guy has that vested interest. This undermines the trust. It undermines that people are doing things, everybody is doing things because of some vested interest, some personal interest. It vitiates the atmosphere, okay? And if you ask me what BHU suffers the most, it is this vitiation of atmosphere, where nobody trusts anybody, okay? And BHU has to come out of it. We were part of BHU, we have to come out of it. We shouldn't say it is with BHU, not with us. It is there in us. Unknowingly we go into that, and invariably the trust is undermined. If trust is undermined, then there is breakdown of democratic process. Even though formal procedures may be there, there is a breakdown. The breakdown is here, breakdown is in the mind, and that is very bad for an institution. So accepting the common decision means following it, and also not do backbiting. This is part of it. And of course, when a forum, public forum is provided, at that time take it as an issue and say if that issue has come up again. And the other things we have to know what to do, what not to do, which are more courtesy, manners, family relations. Every time something goes on, I told you so. Right? This is a slightly different thing. You people took the decision. Now look, see what is happening. Next week, see what is happening there. So this I would leave to more how we, if our goal is to point out for future decisions that we shouldn't have done this and now we should learn from it, there are better ways to do this than this, right? This we all know from personal experience because we do it in family also, and if we do it, the family harmony gets disturbed. So there is some, so this we require democratic maturity, okay? Dealing with differences among colleagues. Of course, we also have to, while dealing with differences, we have to learn how to persuade people. If majority feels one way and there is a minority view, sometimes majority will stand up and say, we will not take a decision. There are, out of 100, there are 20 of us who differ from us and differ very strongly. So we will hold the decision for 1 year. People have done that. We will hold the decision, even though 80 are in favor, we will not take a decision. That patience and that fortitude is needed. I don't know whether I have this or not. My wife tells me I don't have that. Okay, you are in a hurry. But when I came here, I worked at 1/4 of my speed, which I used to do earlier. I said, first we have to get the things right, place right, the trust, we have to build the trust, build the values, and after that the institute will jump forward, spring forward. So I reduced my speed by at least 50% or 75%, or 1/3 or 1/4 the speed. What does accepting a decision mean when it is not to my liking? I have already mentioned. Sincerely, I will follow that. I will try to implement that sincerely. Okay, that is what accepting the decision means. And all this requires patient understanding by all. Most importantly, and this is because as intellectuals we get hurt the most very quickly, right? Egos are also strong and we get hurt also easily, and I've gone through that phase as a young faculty member in IIT Kanpur. No, this is a totally wrong decision. Can't they understand? Right? at institute level, Senate level, when I was not a member of Senate, or at department level. But then you learn slowly, right? So do not convert differences into opposition to people. If this was in our freedom movement, or in Hindi, matbhed ho, manbhed na ho. Mat means vichar, my opinion. We may differ in our opinions, but our man is one. We are not against each other. Right? And if you look at our freedom movement, you will be quite amazed how many differences there were within the mainstream movement. Forget about the smaller groups or Naram Dal, Garam Dal. Within Naram Dal, within the mainstream, there were so many differences. There were differences between Gandhi and Tagore, right? Very celebrated. Gandhi said, we will burn the clothes. All the clothes that people are donating for, we will burn the foreign made clothes voluntarily. Tagore said, why? There are so many people without clothes, we are very poor, should use them. Why should you burn them? He said, no, we will burn them. And there were open debates on this. These are not personal things. People have written, both have written on many issues where they differed. But you should see how they start when they are writing an article which is going to criticize the other person, how they start the article and what they write. Okay? They acknowledge what this quality the other person has, but on this issue is wrong. And then there is no, you put your views strongly and so on. Between Gandhi and Subhash Bose, even there is very interesting. The name Mahatma was given by Subhash Bose. Mahatma was given by Tagore. Bapu was given by Subhash. Okay. So, yeah, and there were, of course, very major differences. So, this democratic maturity, so how do you test this? You should test it in yourself next time you are sitting in a meeting and the decision is going against your views, against your desires. Okay? After that, you start blaming people, others, saying this did purposely, that guy did this purposely, this is why he wanted. That means you have not reached democratic maturity. Because you come down to individuals and start criticizing them, and then you become opposed to them. That is a follow-up that takes place. So this is, our democratic work is in progress. Many learnings have yet to take place. Come to environment and harmony, and democratic values makes the important part. So what makes the environment of an institute? This is a question. What makes the environment of an institute? Any suggestions? Relations between colleagues, right? Very good. Of course, people, right? People, the relationships among them, what they think of each other, what they think of themselves. So people, that is the central part. Okay? And what shapes these people? What shapes us? Okay? If those people are already enlightened, they are not affected. If they are Buddha, doesn't matter. Whether they are sitting here or sitting in a place where riots are taking place, they would not be affected. They would still do, not that they would be inactive, but they would not be affected. But we are not enlightened. Some of you, I can't say for you, but I am not an enlightened man. Okay? So, three things I'll mention which shape us. One is the systems. We are within a system of rules, regulations, various structures which are there. The culture of the place, this affects us, this shapes us rather. So what are the practices, what are the norms, how people view regulations, about that place, how much openness is there, openness of towards discussion, behavior towards each other. So this is all the culture of the place. So culture shapes us enormously. That is why culture is very important. Okay. Then underlying culture are the values. Trust, respect, caring for colleagues. These are the values. Okay. So there are these three things in an institutional setting that are very important, because they shape the people who are in the institution. They shape the students, they shape the faculty, they shape the non-teaching staff, they shape everybody. So environment of an institute is determined by these three. Now what are they and which one of them is the most important? What do you think? Which one is most important? Third one. Okay, I'll leave it to you which is more important. But rest of the slides, I'm going to talk about this, a few slides. The red color I will use for systems, blue for culture, and purple, which is our color, IIT BHU's color is purple, for values. Okay, BHU's color is blue, so that also, because for us the culture, they are right next door, so that is, we are part of that larger culture. Okay, and systems we all hate, so I have put it red. That is what we are talking, I could guess, right? But anyway, so we will come to that part also. So what are the functional areas? I have listed 4 functional areas: governance, academics, research, and student life. Right? There are many others, but few more, but these 4 are the major areas in any institution, any educational institution. Okay. So we have to build, so how do we handle this? So systems are good for students but not for faculty. Well, so the goal of the systems is to actually create some order, how decisions can be taken, when create a framework in which there would be some equitable way of deciding, there are methods for deciding, and what are the constraints under which one will have to function, right? So for example, if you talk of academics and talk of students, the most prime system will be the curriculum and the regulations, ordinances, credit system, ordinances, and so on. If you come to research, these systems will count, okay, how many publications, how many patents, what are the technologies developed. These would become the measures for the activity in research, activity in academic. That may also be used in regulating the activity, right? So for somebody wanting to go abroad or somewhere else for a conference, say, hey, you should have a paper. Now system says you can go provided you have a paper, right? So this is part of the system now. So it governs many different things in that area. And student life, other than academics, would be extracurricular activities, student parliament, and so on. And we saw that yesterday. Now, I was talking to somebody who is although an IAS officer, but very enlightened man. So he was saying that we in government think it is systems which govern everything. He said, what I have found in my long years, he is retired now, my long years of experience, systems account for 30%. 20 to 30%, 70 to 80% is something else. Okay. So what is that something else? It is the culture and the values. So what is the culture? What culture permeates? Culture may relate to manners, how we talk with each other, respect, openness, I mentioned that. And cultural values or culture may be about excellence. So excellence in academics, excellence in research, excellence in student life. Empowerment. Although there is a system, the people in the system are empowered. They may be stakeholders or they become committee members. So why is it, this is a question I have always asked myself, why is it that in an academic institution, when there are committees, there is democratic way of functioning is part of the fiber, why is there so much unhappiness that I can't do anything, I am helpless, right? So why is it that there is so much antipathy towards the system which is supposedly working on the committees? I recall this man, these words of this IAS officer who said, actually rules and regulations and systems govern only 20 to 30%. Major part is outside, right? So this comes here in culture, and I have listed 3 now which are not individual but how it affects the systems. Whether there is a sense of empowerment, I am in the committee, I am supposed to decide, but if I decide it this way, will it empower my colleague or disempower my colleague? Very important to realize. Many things are formal, you only are expected to see it, is it okay? Please go ahead. You want to do it? Go ahead. Versus, no, this is going to affect lot of interests and we have to take a decision where we cannot tolerate a negative part. This sense of discernment that when a decision of the committee is crucial for a larger group versus it is not very important for larger group, but if there is a passionate person or a group who wants to do this, we should empower them. So the sense of empowerment if we can create, and experimentation. Sometimes you cannot decide only by discussion. We know it all in our science, right? Just by theory, yes, we can rule out certain things, but we are asked what will happen in this situation, we may do all the calculations, everything, finally we have to see actually it happens or not, right? So similarly in a committee when we are sitting and deciding, oh, will this happen if such a decision is taken, it will not happen. Is there any scope for experimentation? Can this committee say, oh, we should run a pilot? Right? We are not sure, run a pilot, allows such and such experiment to be done over a period of next 6 months, we will take the final decision at that time. Okay? So this is part of the culture, and this culture, as a good example of this is IIT Kanpur. Even today they don't have many things written down. When we asked, time to time we ask, please send us this document, that document, right? Because we were supposed to follow IIT Kanpur statutes, right? So we would, besides statutes is written down, but many practices that they follow said, no, please send an order about this. Sorry, we have no order, we are just following this for last 50 years, right? Your board would have decided this. Yeah, board had decided 50 years back, since then it has changed so many times. Where is the new order of the board? No, there is no order. So there is a consensus that this is reasonable thing to do, it gets done and it gets followed, right? That is the culture, strength of the culture. Now, most of the time we stop here. What are the systems? We have the systems, we have the culture, but what underlies culture? Okay. And this is where there is lack of clarity, by and large. Okay. And it is the values. And there is trust as a value. I put openness as a value. Caring is of course a value. So trust and caring, these are with my colleagues, with other people. And openness is a willingness to discuss. Okay. So these become the values. So this is 3-layered thing where most of the time you see only the red and blue you are not aware of, okay, but blue is what makes the red work, right? That IAS officer who was saying, it is this blue which contains the major part, and the value, this is actually a small part, but it's very crucial. It makes the blue work, makes that culture work, and because of the culture the systems work. So I will talk about now these things. So what underlies good governance, serious academics, innovative research, fulfilling student life? Those 4 things that I had mentioned, right? So environment of excellence, willingness for experimentation, feeling of empowerment. Okay. So this is what will be important 3 cultural elements I have taken and the underlying values. Okay. So what is environment of excellence? Setting high goals, shared goals, empower individuals and groups to take their decisions. This is the cultural part, right? So we set high goals, shared goals. In a group we get those goals, we arrive at a consensus, right? So even in a group, informal research group, we arrive at consensus. And most importantly, empower the individuals through culture. Systems have their own way, but this interaction between culture and systems is very important. Okay. So if this happens culturally, that we are used to, we like our colleagues to be empowered, because after all we are sitting in those committees, right? The system has created the committees, and system certainly operates within a boundary. Within that boundary there is considerable space, right? We have to follow financial rules, no question of not doing that. We have to follow many other rules which are defined, but within that there is tremendous space. Are we making use of that space? Okay. Example in research, example in teaching, high goals, example in research, high quality publications, technology development, technology transfer, societal impact, right? What is enabled? How would this happen? Then we form research groups with critical mass, that is very important today, right? Involve all members in the research, undergraduates also in research, students at all levels, 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year, even 2nd year, and then of course masters and PhD. And most importantly, a research group means more than 2 faculty members, 3 or more. Okay. If you have a big group but all of the people are your students, it's not a group. You have a good, it's good that you are doing well, we are happy. But when we use the word research group, then faculty members have to work together, right? I just put some number 3, you may say no, it should be 4, somebody will argue less. But when faculty are working together along with their students and working jointly to solve a problem, right, which could have any of those 4, right? And one thing we have to understand, when we are in a public situation, when we are in an institution, there will always be external checks on us, okay? But we are driven by internal. There are external checks, but we are driven internally. So there will be external faculty appraisal, checks would be for teaching, research, whatever, but we are internally driven. If you understand that, then the external check comes to our help. We use it as a feedback mechanism. We even disregard that feedback sometimes. Okay. If you want to shift an area, you may say for 1 year I won't get any publications. I am making a major shift. Okay. And 2nd year also very few publications. Because you are internally driven. If you are driven only by external factors, then you will not take bold steps. So you have to be internally driven with external checks. You come to empowerment, feeling of empowerment. Empowered people feel they are able to do what is required for fulfilling their goals. Even if the goal is not reached, they say, yes, it is hard goal, tough goal. But I have all the required things with me to reach, all reasonably required things. You say, no, moon should change its orbit, then only I will be able to. That is not possible. Okay. So, all the reasonable required things are available, then you work. And major problem in our universities is that there is a lot of acrimony within the department. Always convert that, whatever I am saying, to the point nearest to you, your own department. Right? Is there any acrimony? There is a lot of fight. All our energy goes in that. And this is internally. Internally we are sapped. Our energy is drained. Externally what happens? We disempower each other. Okay? He is in that committee, I am in the other committee, I fix him, he fixes me. Okay? Even when everything is within rules, everything is proper, could have been done, but say no. Doing this will create this problem, so therefore not allowed. So we have to come out of this trap. And the value which affects this is trust. Trust on my colleague. And if I can add, caring for my colleague. You know, when the French Revolution took place, Rousseau and others, they gave three slogans, if you remember. Liberty, what was the other one? Equality. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Right? Only the first two got implemented. Third one was not implemented. Right? What happened after French Revolution? 1790s. The revolutionaries started killing each other. How? Publicly hanging, guillotine. Very worst form of, not even hanging, worse than that. Cutting with the neck in one stroke. And as the society developed, it forgot about fraternity. Fraternity is what? Brotherhood. I care for you. So the modern society is built on two values, liberty and equality. Okay? The Asian societies find it very uncomfortable. Why? Because fraternity is let go. Asian societies are built on fraternity. Right? Tradition was built on fraternity. And the modern society is built on liberty. Right? Equality was a way, very important. So what happened now, there are two societies, both having a clash. And world doesn't know where to go. You have to add fraternity to the modern society. Okay? And if you can add fraternity, there are a few more things missing. Those three are not complete. You need something more than that, which Asian societies have actually, but they don't understand it. They have not figured it out. So we are confused. So with these three, but if you add the third element, you suddenly will move forward. The Asian societies will move forward. Western societies will also move forward. The world will move forward. But let's not go to the world. What about us as an institution? Fraternity is missing. Okay? Because fraternity as a narrow sense is understood by the Asian societies. Okay? The larger vision of fraternity is missed. So what is fraternity? My caste. I do things for my caste. You are helping others? No, but I will not help you. You are on another caste. So this boundary becomes divisive. So you start with fraternity, fraternity becomes divisive because it's limited. And that is what we are suffering as a nation also. So the larger notion of fraternity is needed, and that notion only can take us forward. So if those of you want to know what we are doing in induction program, we are combining these two, if you ask me, plus one more element which is missing. So the incomplete French Revolution, modernity, because modernity is incomplete, there is a problem actually with it. And on the other hand, tradition has become incomplete, because tradition could not find a way of making a larger view of the world. So how we combine the two and take things forward, so that is what we are trying to do through the induction. When we say universal human values, the word universal indicates it is not for any group, it is universal. Okay? It is not even bound by country, it is universal for all human beings. So anyway, but coming closer home, this fraternity in the department is crucial and it is missing. So I feel for my friend, my colleague, okay, and with that understanding, if I take decisions in my committees, I will produce a different atmosphere, I will produce a different institute. Right? So earlier we had autocracy, coterie versus democracy, right? Democracy is clearly desirable, but the way it is practiced, it gives up fraternity, okay? And it gives up, it builds on groupism, which becomes the antithesis of fraternity. That feeling of fraternity, it is an antithesis. Democracy alone does not empower. Collectively, groups and individuals disempower each other. At most universities, different sections feel disempowered. I was telling you, I always wondered how come institutions feel, you talk to any constituent of a university in general and they will say, the students say, no, the university doesn't care for us. Faculty there say, nobody listens to us. I can't do what I want, I can't do research, I can't do teaching. And the Vice Chancellor also says, nobody listens to me. What is happening? It is the best of the institution with the maximum amount of freedom, autonomy, so much the society has given, right? And yet it is the unhappiest of the institution. How come? Has to be a happy place, right? There is a happiness curriculum in Delhi now. So when we get up and ready to go to work, we should feel happy. Say, अरे आज फिर वहीं जाना है, वो ये सुनाएगा, ये कहेगा. You have to be happy when we go, because we have collectively disempowered each other. Right? Society has given us a lot of freedom, but we have disempowered ourselves. Right? This is about decision making. It's a little fine point. Maybe I don't know whether I will be able to convey this. What is the right level of a decision? Decision making at the right level leads to empowerment. This is the claim. Now, what is the right level, appropriate level, and what is individual level, what is research group level, what is a specialization research lab or a not, in the department, then at the level of a department, the level of the institute. Okay. So, when the consequence of the decision when the consequence of a decision affects a group of people, then they should be taking the decision. Okay? And if there is let's say some decision is going to affect 10 people, right? They should be taking it does not affect anybody else, correct? Now what shirt should I wear? It doesn't affect you, right? So I should be free to decide what shirt I can wear, right? So when a decision affects a group of people, those are the group, all of those members should be deciding. If more than that is deciding, then some extraneous people have come and said, no, you should not wear this, you should do this. Not good. And if that decision affects 10 people, only 5 are taking decision, other 5 said, this is affecting us, you didn't even ask us. Right? So what is the right level of a decision? Namely, a decision that affects, right? You understand this basic principle? Of course, it is not always so neat, because it will affect those 10 people very strongly, but maybe another 50 people very mildly, and even that can sometimes become a cause. So all that is handled by the culture, that how do you take those things. Or if when those 10 people take a decision, huge resource goes away, which means it has affected other people. So then it is not only affecting those 10 people, it is affecting much larger number of people. So this idea, when you decide, when you are sitting in a committee and deciding, you should ask, will this decision, the people to whom this decision is going to be, people who will be affected by the decision, have they been consulted? Have they themselves, do they have proposed a solution? Yes. Decision is only affecting them, nobody else. It is not even affecting a system, it is not affecting anything else, not affecting finances. Please go ahead. This committee is only for namesake, because you are not affecting any other thing. We are following within the purview of the system. Others are not affected. You want to do it, then you decide. Now that level of clarity should be there when you sit in a committee. Okay? And if you have fraternity, if you think they are my brothers and sisters, then you say, I should empower them, I should help them. So this feeling and this view maybe can help you decide how I should build the right culture in the institute. Okay? I forget about culture, this is what I can do which is the right thing to do. Okay? And that is what is autonomy. Those 10 people now feel autonomous, they are not affected others, it is they are free to decide what is good for them. Right? Even when they make a mistake, this is important. Now you know that they are taking a wrong decision, what will you do? It's not affecting anybody else, but it is bad. Then your job is to educate them. Tell them, show them the consequences of their decision, and you say, I am in this committee, but consider this, have a debate, have a discussion. This is what the democratic process. And then you may ultimately say, well, they are not agreeing. Say, okay, we will let you do it, but you do it as an experiment. Keep a limited period. Of course, if you think it is going to be disastrous, then don't. But otherwise, there is some responsibility that comes on us. But if it is not a disastrous thing, you now allow for experiment. Okay, we will implement